Welcome to the Evolved Caveman podcast. I am Dr. John, the guide for your heroic journey towards greater health, success, and most importantly, happiness. And now, on with the show. Hi, this is Dr. John, and I am thrilled to announce that Jory and I are opening up our retreat in beautiful Costa Rica from September 28th of 2024 to October 5th. Everyone wants fulfilling relationships. The hard part is love is not enough. So many factors can get in the way, preventing ongoing connection, intimacy, and aligned growth. All healthy relationships start within. But when we have unresolved stuff, it can easily interfere with those we are seeking to be closest with. Whether you're in a long-term committed partnership or are single and are looking for love, this retreat will guide you in the heroic journey of healing yourself so that you can be open and available to cultivate the fulfilling relationships you desire and deserve. To find out more, visit joryrose.com/retreats. That's JOREEROSE.com/retreats. Hey, everybody, this is Dr. John back with another episode of the Evolved Caveman podcast. And it is my pleasure to have with me today Thomas Gloor. And Thomas has been teaching yoga to men for decades. And if that were it, that would be nice. But there's so much more to Thomas that we're going to talk about today, including the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the energetic, and even the sexual. Thomas, welcome. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for the invitation, John.
My pleasure. And tell me a little bit, just to start us off, tell us of your story. How did you come to the point of seeing yoga as critical for men?
Well, I started my life as an investment banker. So there I was quite successful, but really being not happy in my job and looking around my, people I was working with, also customers. There were not so much or so many happy people, even though they had lots of money. You could see this was not really something that helped them to be happy and just enjoy life. And then I met my ex-wife, who was a yoga teacher. And she said, well, I'm going to India to the gurus and to some yoga school. Would you like to join me? And then I quit my job. And I went for 1 year on a travel. And there I was really introduced to the spirituality of the East. I was always interested also when I was a teenager, I was always fascinated about mysticism, and health and how you can improve your health and happiness. And there I was trying to find an answer. And interestingly, all these teachers, exclusively, they were all men. And so when I came back, I was looking for a job again in the bank. Again, I was not happy. So in 1992, I decided to become a full-time yoga teacher. And still I'm a full-time yoga teacher. And when I started, I had like 95% of women in my classes, rarely a man. Over the time, it changed a little bit. Now maybe it's 80% women, 20% men. But I always found it a little special because, being really at the origin of yoga, seeing it has been a system from men to men, I just found it very irritating that men did not really have a connection to yoga. So I thought, I'd like to change that and make yoga more approachable to men. This is how it started,
Wow, and that's quite a jump from investment banking to yoga teacher.
It was really a big thing. It was also not easy. I really had to leave my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But I had just this vision, to help support people, to be happy and healthy. And I just had the feeling wasting my time as an investment banker, and
Can you speak to a little bit about how you had to leave your comfort zone going from one role to the other?
well, in 1992, when you go back, yoga was not yet so popular.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, they just didn't know anything about yoga. So based on that, try to build up, something. I mean, it also has to be a business you can live from, was not so easy, And so it meant, my first idea was to have like a part-time job, but I was like over-educated. So they wouldn't let me into the company, because they said, well, if with your education, you have to be in the management, and there's no way in the 1990s you make like a 50% job,
Mm-hmm.
So over time, I just said, well, let's try it, and together with my wife, we just started our yoga classes, and everything went well. Of course, I had some reserves financially. And so, it was difficult financially, leaving the comfort zone. I mean, like, if you can make your hobby and your passion to your profession, of course, that's not leaving your comfort zone, of course.
Yeah. But it still can be scary. And tell me a little bit about leaving, because I would imagine there was some leaving the comfort zone of traditional masculinity to do this work in yoga.
Of course. I mean, like, you can imagine my investment banker friends, they thought like I went
You were
crazy.
insane. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I was insane, trying
How could you leave all this money?
Right. And they thought I would become a guru, and become weird and go on with drugs and stuff like that. So I would say most of my friendships did not, last or did not go well. So there was a lot of breakups, because there was just no understanding of, what made me do this decision, because they were so much trapped in their materialistic way of living.
Mm-hmm.
That they could not imagine somebody, choosing their passion as a profession. So they all predicted that I will fail,
Mm-hmm.
And now looking back,
sorry,
30 years later, I mean, lots of these banking people, they don't have a job anymore, and I'm still in the business.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
When I imagine a lot of those guys, and I'm assuming most of them were guys at the time, men, that they were stuck in a lot of black and white, all or nothing thinking, that they have a certain specific narrow worldview, and what you set out to do just didn't compute, didn't fit into their worldview. That what you do is you make money, you assume you amass power and influence, and that eventually at some point down the road, they thought they would be happy.
That's it, and I always was strict for my ethics. So I said, I'm never ever going to lie to people. I'm not, if I'm forced to lie to somebody, I will not do that. And in the banking business, unfortunately, sometimes they ask me to lie to customers, and I was just not ready to do this, and there were big conflicts. And I always said, well, I mean, the biggest asset of a bank is trust. So how can you lie to your customers? I mean, it doesn't make any sense,
Right.
But my boss wouldn't understand, and also my friends wouldn't understand, because they would always say, well, you have to compromise. And I said, I'm not compromising my ethics, no way I'm going to do that. So that was another something they didn't like at all,
Mm-hmm. So let's get a little bit more into it here. And one of the things when we talked earlier offline is that you mentioned you see yoga as physical, of course, but then perhaps even more importantly, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and even sexual. So go into each one of those briefly, if you would.
Yes. Well, I mean, In a way, I understand the men that they are not attracted to yoga because it's positioned in a like sometimes acrobatic way. There are a lot of teachers, a lot of women, of course, who just want to show off how flexible they are. And it's all about how to good look and sexy and flexible, And this is not really what yoga is all about. Of course, it's about stretching, but it's not, the body and these physical exercises, they are called in the yoga tradition asanas. These physical exercises, they are just 1/8 of a whole system, And today, yoga is like just narrowed to this physical part. And this is a pity because it's more like inner science, how to be efficient with your emotions, with your energy, and with your thoughts, That's like the main goal of yoga.
And one of the main goals that you mentioned earlier was transforming emotional energy into spiritual energy.
Right. So, this transformation has to do, of course, that we tend to identify with our emotions. And by identifying with our emotions, we give them energy, And then we have like the experience, we are ruled by our emotions.
Right.
And if there are emotions coming up we don't want and we go in opposition, they get stronger and stronger. But we don't realize it's ourselves. It's a fight against our own emotion. How can you win? You can only lose,
Yeah.
And in the yoga tradition, on the spiritual path, they ask a very interesting question. This question is, who is watching your emotions? So there is something, a consciousness that is watching your emotions. And once you realize that, there is a distance between the watcher and the emotion,
Mm-hmm.
And now you're disconnected. And now you have the freedom to choose which emotions you would like to, to allow yourself to celebrate, like love, joy, happiness, and which emotions you don't want to allow to have an effect on you, And this makes you free, and how to become free is like one of the major questions that are asked in the yoga tradition, How
Free
can I be
suffering?
Free? Sorry?
Freedom from suffering?
Not only suffering, but freedom in general. How can I be just free from everything, not only from suffering, but how can I live a life of freedom where I just can be myself, and there are no limitations.
Yeah, be comfortable in my own skin and
right.
Yeah, do what I want to do, not what others want me to do. And yeah, I guess there's a lot wrapped up in that. So go over an example. I think anger is a good one for male listeners. How do you show people how to transform something like anger specifically into something that passes more quickly, or into the spiritual, or something else? How do you transform?
Well, the system is very interesting. So anger is just an emotion, and yoga is not really asking the question, why is the anger there? Doesn't really matter why, because if it's there, it's there, and you have to deal with anger and not really waste your time trying to find out why am I angry, that you can do later. But at the moment, you have to deal with the emotion of anger, And once you go this step back, like there is a consciousness, and this consciousness is just experiencing anger, and then try to be neutral. Because why should anger be negative? It's just an emotion.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be negative.
It doesn't have to be negative. It's just the emotion, and why would you just go in opposition with that? Because it's a natural reaction of your system, And if you just stay at, in this distance, just stay in your center, breathing slowly, And then you'll see anger as an emotion is coming, getting stronger and stronger. And at a certain level, it starts to fade away, And by fading away, a lot of times the opposite emotions are activated. For example, joy, and not interfering with this natural process, and everybody of us who has children knows that, they are like totally angry, pain, and then they're joyful, it's just, it's gone,
Yeah, and I would call that, meta, or going meta on oneself. So it's who is watching your thoughts, who is watching your emotions, creating psychological distance. But it also brings to mind that saying from mindfulness of you can't stop the waves from coming, but you can learn how to surf the waves.
Right. That's it. And the more you are successful with that, the more easy you get, And, another very important thing in the yoga tradition, also energetically, if you go in opposition with anger, it will be stored somewhere in your body. I mean, it's not it's not something that has been solved. It's like a potential within. And this potential has just, the capacity to come again, So the more anger you suppress, the more difficult it becomes to control, And if you look at these people, mostly men, who go like totally insane, These men, they are not like the ones shouting around. That these are always the very quiet ones, not talking, not expressing themselves. And so this energy is building up, and then there's like an explosion you can't control,
I mean, there's even leading thinkers, cutting edge thinkers right now that are hypothesizing that like a lot of the autoimmune disorders, and I think a lot of other things, cancer comes to mind, where these conditions are perhaps caused by suppressed just anger.
Right.
And so we've been trained not to show anger. And yet if it's just anger that's coming up for, someone wronged you, someone crossed a boundary, social injustice, that those need to be dealt with in a healthier way than just shoving them down and putting a cap on them, because they're going to come out in some way.
Right. And I'm not only into yoga, I'm also into Tao yoga and Qigong. And there you have like this connection from anger to the liver.
Mm-hmm.
And we have this
different,
also, right?
Different emotions are connected to different organs, right?
Right. So, your liver is heated up with anger, and it's getting more and more difficult to control this because it's getting hotter and hotter, And there are specific, like the healing sounds, It's like a meditation where you start to transform these negative emotions into a positive emotion, releasing this tension. And this can also happen in yoga, because if there are certain parts of your body where a lot of negative emotions are kept, and then you go into a stretch, and you feel the tension, you might release that, And so therefore it's important to know how to cope with it, because if you are able just to be, like you say, on a meta, on this distance, you will see the emotion is released. It shows in your consciousness. And if you just watch, it will be going away. And this one is gone, And if you cannot deal with it and you suppress, you push it back again, and then, it's just a matter of time until it tries to show up again.
Yeah. It either builds, comes back stronger, or gets buried somewhere in your body and doesn't do good things. We're still trying to figure out exactly what that connection is, but I'm a firm believer in that connection. So we've talked a little bit about emotional, a little bit about energetic. Speak to spiritual, and then we'll come around to the sexual.
Well, the spiritual is something, where you have like this materialistic world, which is, a materialistic world is always by definition limited. It has always a limit, a border. And there is a world that has no borders. It's like this, the spiritual world, And in the yoga tradition, we say our origin, our soul, if you want so to say, is not from the materialistic level. It's from the not non-materialistic level.
Mm-hmm.
So our essence is non-materialistic, but we're having experience in the materialistic world. But at the same time, we can also have experience in a world beyond materialism. So we have like two different worlds that we have a connection to. And it's important to know the rules, like, for example, fantasy, has fantasy any limits? No, of course. So it's not part of the materialistic world, imagination. So there are different rules being applied on the materialistic world and on the non-materialistic, on the spiritual world, and a lot of people are mixing it up. And I always take as a example economy, like in a economy, being in a part of the materialistic world, how can you have unlimited growth? Everybody wants to grow like 10%, 20%, and this unlimited growth is not possible in a materialistic world. But if on the spiritual world, if you want to improve yourself, there is like no limit. You can improve yourself forever. It's a legitimate goal, but not in the materialistic world,
Okay.
So growth is not something that should be applied to the materialistic world. It would be balance.
Well, let me ask you this. To what extent do you think growth or lifelong learning is the reason for life, the goal of living?
Well, I mean, it's like, it's everybody wants to become better, right? It's like something we have with it's something within every human. You want to improve yourself, and this is totally okay, because this is like, you can say growth of your soul or growth of your personality, growth of whatever, But when you're talking growth of your business, then you are on the materialistic world,
Right.
And if you have a business that is running well, everybody is happy, why should there be growth? Just keep the balance. Everybody is happy and you have a great living. There is no need for growth, right?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking along the lines of the first, where it seems to me that one of the big goals of life is personal evolution,
right?
Personal growth.
Yes.
And that never really stops, in my opinion.
Never.
Like, we're never really done. We never really reach the finish line.
Right. But this is not part of the materialistic world, so we have
Correct.
to be clear about that, and the spirituality is also the area beyond thought, because thoughts are always based on our past, based on our experience, or on our memories, and
well, hold on.
That we think the only reality is in the materialistic world, and we only feel safe when we are on the level of our thoughts, And if you go to, shamans, if you go to spiritual people, you see they are really moving in a level or in a dimension beyond the thoughts, And this dimension is very important in the yoga tradition.
So thank you for that. And let's talk a little bit about, well, I guess we can leave the sexual for last because that's a nice teaser. But let's talk about the difference between the physical body and the energetic body, or the energy body.
Well, like in our materialistic world, everybody is talking about how can we save energy, you know, but it's always related to buildings, to cars, to machines, you know. But we're not really asking the question, how can we save energy for our human beings? You know, that's not a question that is asked, which in a way is weird, you know. If you go to the yoga tradition or Qigong, that was like one of the major questions. How can I be efficient, you know? And this efficiency has to do with your energy body. You know, the energy body is like the question, well, what gives life to a dead body? You know, science is not really answering that, right? Mm-mm. And in the yoga tradition, we say it's the energy body. You know, the energy body is an energy field, and this energy field is connected to your emotions, to your body, to your thoughts. So everything is like connected. Mm-hmm. And whenever you feel well, whenever you are happy, your energy body is expanding. And whenever you feel unhappy, your energy body is retrieving, getting smaller, you know?
I like the idea on that, like emotionally, that it's vibrational. So when you have positive emotions, those vibrations get further and further apart. You get more porous. And when you get angry, sad, guilty, ashamed, they get more and more dense. And so nothing else can get into you. No idea, no emotion, no thought. Does that fit with what you're saying?
In a way, but, you know, the energy body, like there are certain energy centers, you know, and there's always a test I do with people, especially men, and they really get a little bit confused, you know. I don't know if you know this test in the kinesiology, you know, where
biofeedback.
And then you say, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong. And then you're really strong. And then you say, I'm weak, and I'm weak. And then you really, you get weak, you know. This is already something, a lot of men, they're like totally amazed by that because they can't believe this is happening, you know. So for me, this is always the proof, software, how software has an impact on the hardware, you know. Mm-hmm. But if you concentrate on certain points of energy, it's not working anymore. So you can say, I'm weak, and you're not weak because you're connected to your energy body, you know. And this, of course, is very practical, very helpful, extremely helpful in our daily life. Because you cannot walk around all the time, I'm strong, I'm strong, I'm strong, right? It's not really working, you know. But you can have your focus on certain energy centers and then hold this focus, and your whole energy system is just like strong and stable, you know.
I've seen examples of this. I went to a Dan Millman retreat in Costa Rica several years ago, and Dan invited a guy from Eastern Europe that was a martial artist with a strong spiritual piece to him. And one demonstration that he did was he was standing on one foot with one foot wrapped around his back of his ankle. And he was leaning forward, and he had two of the strongest guys in the room come and push him. And they couldn't move him off one ankle. And he said what he was doing was just channeling his chi through his spine straight down into the earth, and kind of channeling tree trunk energy to make himself immovable.
Right. That's it. So, I mean, this is like the energy body has amazing possibilities, you know, which are totally ignored in our Western world. I mean, energy body is like nobody's talking about energy body.
Yeah.
It's just you're esoteric or some weird guy, but it's like essential, especially, you know, the older you get, the weaker your hardware gets, right? That's just an evolution process. If we like it or we don't like it, it's just happening, you know. But it's not applied to the energy body. The energy body is always strong, you know. So the older you get, the more you should focus on your energy body, because the energy body helps to compensate, you know, the weakness in your physical body. And it's not only compensating, I mean, you're getting stronger and stronger. So again, in martial arts, you have like 90-year-old teacher that are 48 kilos, and they do amazing things. It's nothing physical, it's energetically, and so you see there is like a whole world, hidden world, that is just amazing. And especially for us, it's like a great thing,
Well, and I think, too many of us get caught up in the material world. And I think, the philosophical tradition of empiricism kind of screwed us a little bit in that, truth is what we can see with or experience through our five senses. And what you're talking about is not part of our sensory world.
No, it's
something beyond.
It's something beyond, it's like I always have this quote from Einstein. Einstein said, I think 99 times and I'm not finding anything. I stop thinking, I swim in silence, and the truth is revealed to me. You would not think this is from Einstein,
Yeah.
But
well, I don't know, he was pretty brilliant.
But this tells you, like, in this dimension beyond thoughts, there is like a huge potential, an incredible potential, because you're connecting with maybe an intelligence or something that
collective unconsciousness, who knows?
Right. And there are information to be retrieved, and these information are not something you have experienced in the past, in your past, that's like a total important new information,
Okay, so let's turn the page to sexuality and how yoga can inform us about our own sexuality.
Well, this is, this tantra and this sexuality, again, it has to do with your energy body. I mean, in French, an ejaculation, it's called le petit mort, the little death, And a lot of us men, we know when you ejaculate, it's not like you're having a totally happy feeling and you're like totally energized and you want to hug your partner. In the opposite, you just want to go back into your cave, and you just want to
go to sleep,
which is very difficult for women, So you see something is happening physically and emotionally that has not really a positive effect on us, right? Would you agree?
Mostly. I have a little resistance to this idea.
Yes. So from that, this is the Tao yogis or the tantras. They said, well, I mean, what is the strongest energy we are having available? This is the sexual energy, right? Sexual energy is like the strongest energy we have, And once you ejaculate, there is like immense waste of energy for nothing, I mean, pleasure and orgasm. How long does the orgasm last?
Assuming you're not trying to have a baby, but yeah.
Right.
Which I'm well past those, years.
But still, I mean, it's an incredible waste of energy. And so they said, what will happen if you're not wasting the energy and still have an orgasm? Is this possible? That's the first thing, like for 99.9% of the men, they don't think it's possible to make a difference between ejaculation and orgasm. It's always linked,
And that's a fascinating distinction.
So in the spiritual tradition, they say, no, orgasm and ejaculation is not combined. You can separate it. So you can have a great orgasm and not lose any energy. That's very interesting. And then you have enough energy to have a multiple orgasm. How is that? Because you're not wasting any energy, you can have more than one orgasm, right? And now that brings you up to the level of women. Because women are just stronger sexually, And And in the yoga tradition, we say one reason why men suppress women is because we are a little bit afraid of their sexuality, because we know they're so much stronger. And then we compensate this by showing off physically how strong we are, But
I think they can also give birth. They've also got a higher pain tolerance.
Right. But once you have cultivated your sexual energy, you are like on the same level. And if you have an orgasm without ejaculation, you have very interesting possibilities, for example, on your emotions, because you can take this energy from this sexual energy and transform it into, for example, love, joy, happiness. And now you have an emotional connection with your partner, which you cannot imagine if you have not experienced that, And the same is with your spirituality. So, it's about the chakra system, it's like Kundalini. So you bring the energy up into your brain, and then something amazing is happening, And yes.
Thank you for the explanation. That's fantastic. Tell me more about bringing the energy up through the chakras to the brain.
Well, the first thing is practical. How is it done practical? Practically, if you want to play with it, we say, okay, 100% is ejaculation, right? So you don't want to go to 100%. So you have an arousal and you stop like at 80%, right? At 80% arousal, you stop. And then you just wait. And then you'll see this arousal energy is going down maybe to 30, 40%. And then you start to arouse again, maybe to 85. And then you stop. And then now you will start feeling an amazing energy building up. You don't have the chance, because most men, they get aroused, have an ejaculation, and that's it, right? We're not really playing with this possibility, And so this is the training, and it has to do with the PC muscle, like when you urinate and you stop, this is the PC muscle. So you go closer and closer to this 100%, And then suddenly you have an orgasm, but no ejaculation. And then you see all the energy that has been built up. You can use for spiritual growth, for your emotions, share it with your partner, which is amazing, And then it strikes me
how there's a parallel between these important tiny distinctions between ejaculation, orgasm, and then the other one that comes to mind is like the emotion that you feel and how you behave based on that emotion.
Right.
So getting angry and then punching a wall, or getting angry and going, wow, I'm getting kind of angry. Let me speak to that anger.
Right. But you have to be able to make this distinction. This is called buddhi. Buddhi, it's like the definition of intelligence. Definition of intelligence in the Western world is how can we store and retrieve information, right? All the schooling system is based on that. This is not really intelligence. So intelligence in the yoga tradition, it's this discrimination. What am I? What am I not? What belongs to me? What belongs not to me? This is a very important discrimination, and to have the possibility to make a precise and correct discrimination, this is buddhi. But to be able to do this, you have to be like on this meta level. So you can watch your emotion, you can watch your sexual energy, you can watch your energy body. There's always something that is like.
So let me ask you this: what percentage? Because we're talking about kind of going meta and having self-awareness, really, and metacognition, meta-emotion. What extent of people would you say possess self-awareness at a significant level, like at a level that makes a difference in their lives?
How many people or
percentage?
Very
because
little.
This is one of the problems, I think.
It's a big problem, and you have to know, this is all a secret teaching. It has always been kept secret because it makes you immensely powerful. In the Indian tradition and in the Chinese tradition, that it's called the tantric from tantra, the tantric way. It has always been secret. But over the last 30 or 40 years, there have been masters like Mantak Chia who said, well, time is ripe for people because we're in a transition, society is changing, and there are really very important tools and possibilities, and I'm ready to share now this hidden knowledge with everybody, So everybody has the possibility to use it and to apply it, So in opposition to like a century ago, you would not have been able to get this information. Only by a master who is picking you and says, okay, this information is freely available, but still 99.9% of the people, they don't really realize the gem of this teaching,
Well, and the reason I ask the question is because I'm aware of research that shows that if you ask 100 people, 95 of those 100 will tell you, oh yeah, I'm highly self-aware. But then if you put them to the test, it seems that about 12 to 15% of people are actually self-aware. And that lack of self-awareness on a huge level, a huge scale, to me is one of the big problems facing us in psychology, in yoga, in politics, in world peace, that if we all think we're highly self-aware, and in fact, very few of us are, that's a huge problem. And do you have any way to increase or wake people up, to increase self-awareness or wake people up?
Well, you're absolutely right. It's not only lack of self-awareness, it's also this, mind and body is separated.
Yes. Dualism.
Right?
Fucking
so
Descartes.
Our mind and our body is separate. I mean, you can be in the gym, do your exercises, so your body is doing something and your mind is doing something totally different, right? So it's not connected.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, when is mind and body connected? In daily life, hardly it is connected. Hardly.
Not even in sex sometimes. I mean, people talk to me about their mind wandering while making love, and it's like, that's a problem.
So we
can't even stay present during sex.
Right. So this is a very important goal in yoga, to synchronize mind and body. So synchronizing meaning you're using your energy body in terms of imagination, and your physical body is following your imagination. So when you imagine something, your mind is focused on your energy body, and then your physical body is like, guided by this imagination, and now your body and your mind is in line. It's not so difficult. Or when I say, just do a little exercise, close your eyes, bring your thumb up, think, bring your mental concentration to your thumb and feel your thumb. Can you do mental concentration and feeling your thumb at the same time? Is it possible?
Difficult.
It's possible, right? It's difficult, but it's possible. So if your body awareness and your mental focus is on your thumb, mind and body are connected and not disconnected. So this is really the ancient way of yoga, to have body and mind put together again. And it's not only body and mind, we are also disconnected with nature.
Oh, yes.
Another big problem, There is more Qigong is more addressing this. But if you are connected with nature And if your mind and body is connected, then you're self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
This is like how yoga looks at it, and how you can train.
I love what you're saying. It's been fantastic. So I'm aware of time. So let me ask you one last question, because when we talked offline, you had mentioned that you've had a recent spiritual retreat that you led in Egypt, and you were talking about the sacred oils of Saqqara. Am I pronouncing that right?
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that, because that I thought was really cool.
Well, the oils, they have a very interesting reaction on our body. Like the filter of mind is deactivated. So if you smell something, filter of mind is deactivated. So that it's like smell at your grandmother and something, you just smell something and it hits you immediately emotionally, right?
Yeah.
Emotion is totally triggered. So this has been a very ancient art of healing in the Middle East for thousands of years, And it has also been a specific way of initiation, again, into spirituality. So in Saqqara, which is like the oldest pyramid in Egypt, they found, some writing about these holy oils. And in the ancient Egypt, it was all about good smells. So they would say, good smells are always connected with good energies, and bad smells are always connected with bad energies. I can relate to that, right? I think everybody.
Sorry, I'm just smelling a candle here.
So they just wanted to cultivate good energy, very intense. And these oils this is like an intelligence. It's like a gate into a certain dimension. So this is like the initiation, it's connected with the chakra. So it's
like psychedelics, kind of, in the way that they create portals into different levels of consciousness.
Yes, but it's like, what's to say? I mean, it's more like you're in a way it is, but it is more like on a conscious way, right?
Yes.
You're not using the drugs. And so there are different chakras, and actually there's like a communication with the intelligence of the oils. And this is extremely healing, and especially for men. When do we learn how to express and how to use our emotions? We are not taught. I mean, I always tell the women, you can't blame men. I mean, nobody tells them. You should show them. Would be the easiest, because how can they learn? And the oils, they have this magic power to bring or to activate emotion within you. So then you can relate to, this is how love feels. This is how lightness feels. This is how self-confidence feels.
Oh, we got a glitch in the matrix here.
And to their worlds of emotions, And once this connection is made, again, they have more self-awareness about their emotions,
Yeah.
They can express themselves much more clearly.
Yeah.
Because if you not really know how these emotions feel, how can you express yourself, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So
thank you for the explanation, because I thought that was fascinating when we talked about it earlier. So in wrapping up, where can people get a hold of you if they want to find out more?
Well, I'm based in Switzerland, and especially for this call, I just translated a page, which is called Yoga for Men in English.
Thank you.
I have also a video there, which has a YouTube subtitle. It's not perfect, but you get the sense. And I'll send you the link later on.
Okay, I'll put that in the show notes.
Right. And this is how you can get hold. I mean, today, look at us. We can do a lot of things with live stream. And,
Absolutely.
the teaching of yoga is a teaching of your own practice, So it's not something, it's not no dependency. You want to be independent, and it teaches you just certain tools, certain techniques, certain methods you can use to improve your emotionality, your energy, your sexual energy, and then once you have these tools, you're independent. You just use it and you grow with it, and that's the great thing about these ancient spiritual traditions.
Fantastic. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wisdom. I found it fascinating and
Thanks,
very
John,
enjoyable.
for the invitation.
And that's it for this episode of The Evolved Caveman. If you like this episode, please be sure to like, rate, review, and share. If you didn't like it, you don't have to do a damn thing. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Evolved Caveman podcast. If you like what you've heard, support us by subscribing, leaving reviews, and sharing the podcast with friends and colleagues. For the latest, most powerful tools to connect with like-minded men, join the Facebook group at The Evolved Caveman. Follow Dr. John on Instagram at The Evolved Caveman, all one word, or join the email list by visiting guidetoself.com.